What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hoof Live. Coming at you without Sterling.
Hey,
It's E.
yo.
Brown Hoof. I'm here with Anthony.
What's going
What is
on,
going
man?
on?
Hey, enjoying the free agency period as it continues to roll in. Big baller bean just putting us all to shame, man. Just doing everything that everybody says he can't do and more.
Yes,
Amazing.
there is a new phrase around the NFL that I saw on Twitter today, and that's called the Buffalo discount.
Yeah, it's something that, people lectured all year isn't real and there's no real hometown discount, and I guess there is, man. All these players sticking around because they believe in what this team can do together.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time to jump on this wagon, right? 13 wins, championship game, quarterback's looking good. They really have everything now. I mean, the needs are pretty slim. And with that, Isaiah McKenzie getting signed today. I think the money's right here. Let's see, signed 1 year, $1.15 million, and only 350,000 guaranteed for McKenzie. So Brandon Bean getting that discount. We go through this every year with McKenzie, I feel like. And he says the same thing every year. He believes in the team. He likes it here. He's willing to take the discount. He doesn't want to give it a shot with a different team if he doesn't have to. And with that mentality, I think Brandon Bean's like, we'll definitely take you for a
Yeah, talk about somebody who embodies what Buffalo and Brandon Bean look for. I mean, this is nuts. 2 years in a row, they've kind of. Last year was interesting because I thought for sure they were moving on from him. They didn't tender him a contract. They let him hit free agency, and it wasn't until the very end of free agency that he came back for a low price. And now this year, it looked again, okay, Brandon Bean's keeping all the guys he wants. Where does that leave Isaiah McKenzie? And we have reports, people are interested in Isaiah McKenzie, which made sense. He is a gadget player. He showed his best season in 2020 of his talents and how a team could use them. And I'm sure that every team in the NFL would like a player like him to be able to use him in those gadgety situations as a return man, all those things he can do. So for Brandon Bean to bring him back in at another low contract, it's like,
yeah.
At this point, I'm like, does this guy know his own value? This is crazy. But I mean, obviously I'm excited because he's a gadget player. He's not, wide receiver number 3 or even 4 on this team at this point, but he's there for those important gadget plays. He can be that special player, to do end arounds and to make that defense think when he's on the field. Hey, what are they doing? What's this guy, doing on the field? Is he going to get the ball? Are we ready for him? So I love it. I absolutely love it. For $1 million and a bag of beans, right. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Says the band is back together.
Yeah.
That should be the theme of the offseason because they're just re-signing everybody across the board, right? Nobody's hitting free agency really. That's something I didn't expect. So back to McKenzie. Do you want to start with the positive or the negative? What do you prefer tonight? What kind of mood are you in?
I mean, you got to go positive here. You got to go.
Let's hit some positives for Isaiah McKenzie coming back. You already talked about his role in the offense. I think that is versatility, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had 10 rushes last season.
Yeah.
Handoffs.
On those gadgety, yeah. Uh-huh.
So technically the jet sweep's a pass. So these are actually, actual handoffs. Career highs last year from Isaiah McKenzie in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. It's only like, 250 yards. Let's not get carried away there. But, 17 first downs to his teams. No fumbles in the last 3 seasons for Isaiah McKenzie.
Unbelievable.
Right? That was one of his big knocks, especially in the punt return game. But
Coconut
no fumbles in 3.
Brings up a good point here. What happened out there in Denver to make him give up so quickly? That's what happened in Denver. He could not hold on to the ball. Dropsies, fumblies.
6 fumbles in Denver as a kick returner, punt returner.
So they were just like, look, man, you're not worth it. We're shipping you out. And the Bills picked him up on a flyer, this guy's got the skills we like.
For sure.
Let's get him. See what he can do here.
Some more positives, 30 passes that were caught by him and 34 targets, right? The reason that happens, short passes, right? 3 yards before the catch, meaning catching the ball, 3 yards down the field and then gaining, 6 yards average on every play. That's what McKenzie brings to you, right? He's just a versatile player. He's fast. He can make guys miss. I mean, he gets up the field quick, and that's noticeable. So bringing him back on a deal like that, I think, is extremely valuable. All right, you ready for the negatives?
What do you got? Let's see.
All right, negatives. We know what McKenzie is, right? And you can make an argument that his ceiling is his ceiling. I think we're probably there with him, but you're taking a slot away from maybe a developing player, right? By re-signing McKenzie, he holds a spot on the roster. There's only so many spots that can go out. So if you do draft a rookie, right, McKenzie likely holds that spot. He's held it, the last 5 seasons, 4 seasons. So one negative there. Doesn't mean he makes the team. We don't know. He could still be cut, right? But anyway, limited role on punt returns, 4 punt returns and 1 touchdown, mind you, 5 kick returns in the last 3 seasons. So, I mean, everyone's saying he's our kick returner now. He is our punt returner. He really hasn't been trusted in that role in the past 3 seasons. I mean, only 9, returns total, punt or kick. Before that, we had the fumble problems, 4 fumbles on kick returns in 2018, 6 in 2017 with Denver. So I don't think you can trust him as a kick returner. I would say the punt return game for McKenzie is a little more smooth. I think they do have some trust there, but the kick return game just seems like there's no trust, right? He'd have to work on that. You'd have to build it up again, at least to get the fans on board, right? Because a lot of people around the league know him as a person that fumbles.
I think that's what's key in the situation with Bean and McDermott. And Isaiah McKenzie knows what he's in for. He's been on this team for 2 years. They aren't going to hand him anything. They didn't hand him this contract and say, you're guaranteed a roster spot. Come on board. We love you. They said, come in. We like your skills. Come and compete. Doesn't mean we're not going to bring in a guy who can be our return man and gadget dude and take your spot just like that if he outplays you. So, and Isaiah McKenzie knew that when he signed this contract. So clearly he's okay with, they're going to make me the best version of myself that I can be so that I can beat out any competition they bring in and, work on my problem returning. I have a feeling that they could feel comfortable with him being the kick and punt return guy.
Right. And that's kind of a big question. Michael Lucas says McKenzie was the reason they went out and signed Andre Roberts. And I think a lot of people forgot about that, but that's a good point, Michael. We haven't had to worry about kick and punt returns because Andre Roberts was one of the better guys in the league. He still is one of the better guys in the league at security. He's not, didn't have the touchdowns we all kind of hoped he would. It just never happened. But we didn't have to worry about fumbles. I think maybe he had 1 fumble that I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, right. It was the key one this year too. But and that was, 2 solid years, Pro Bowl years of being a return man. And you can't ask for much more than that. He did everything right, really, and was the threat that we were expecting him to be, as a return man that teams want to have on their side. So it's nothing against Andre Roberts other than, hey, he got money in free agency that we couldn't pay him. McKenzie comes back for a lot cheaper. Maybe they draft a guy who can fill that role too. Who knows? But yeah, it's just nice all around. I believe that I'm confident, even if he is the kick return punt specialist, that they'll work with him enough to feel that confidence and not worry about his previous fumbling problem. Hopefully he's worked on that his previous 2 seasons that he wasn't even doing it. So, let's accept the 1 game in Miami. And we saw what happened there. He does have that explosive speed. Right. He can return it.
And I think the thing is he's versatile. He can go in and take a kick return here and there, a punt return here and there. But to say he's the guy, I'd say the Bills still have a huge hole at kick returner right now. And a lot of people say draft. Rashid here says draft someone special. Again, you know how I am about drafting people. It's not guaranteed. You got to come in and prove it. Who's to say a rookie doesn't come in and
sure.
How do you know how he works with the nerves and things like that in the NFL? I just don't want to see fumbles, but if you're not secure at that position, that's just some of the growing pains you got to go through.
Well, it's interesting seeing the type of men in the draft that are return guys. Most often it's a wide receiver, and that's who people think of, but it could also be a cornerback, right? Somebody like that. There are guys in this draft, if they pick a later round cornerback who can fill a depth role at a position of need, as maybe the 4th cornerback or 5th cornerback on this team, which is fine. We still need the bodies at that position and also serve as a return man if they did it in college to a level that McDermott and Bean are comfortable with. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I'm not handing him anything. They will bring in competition. That is certain. So it's just a matter of who that body is and can he outbeat him.
Right, and I think that's great to leave it right there. So let's move on here. Emmanuel Sanders' impact on the offense.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the video, Eric Turner put out a great video on Emmanuel Sanders and what he brings to this offense. Make sure you check that out. And basically, Sanders is an intelligent route runner. And really what the video pointed out that I noticed is John Brown didn't do a lot of those things, especially in the middle of the field.
Yes.
Emmanuel Sanders, he knows how to move his body. He knows how to make guys miss. He knows holes in the zone. And when Eric mentioned it on the video, I actually recalled, I haven't seen John Brown take a lot of, shots over the middle or even a lot of routes over the middle. He's kind of an outside player. So it does bring you a lot more to the offense. And I think the Bills are really trying to attack the middle of the field. And one of the quotes by Eric Turner, not afraid to get hits for his quarterback. And I think that shows up for sure. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on Emmanuel Sanders and the impact on the offense?
Man, this is actually probably one of my favorite moves of the offseason by the Bills. I have loved Emmanuel Sanders since he played here in Denver, and I got to see him multiple times in person, playing with Peyton Manning and watching him run those crisp routes and get open and work so well with his quarterback. He knows what his capabilities are. He knows what he has to do to help him out, and he can do it. He just goes on the field and does it. And he was a star here in Denver, a clear-cut number one star. And for 3 years, I was like, come on, Bills, go out and get this guy. You could use a guy like this. Come on, I want to see him play in Buffalo. And now that Josh Allen has reached the phase in his career, the level of production that he has, you bring in a guy like Emmanuel Sanders, and my eyes just light up for that, because I know, I've seen it, that Emmanuel Sanders can have that kind of impact on a team, that he's willing to do what it takes to work with his quarterback skill set to get the most out of him and get open and run those routes. And on this team, he's not the number one guy. We still have Stephon Diggs. So that's an even scarier belief that he's not even your number one. He's number two, maybe three behind Beasley and, all the options we have. So I absolutely love this move. I have a feeling he's going to be a key piece of this offense, and he's going to have some flashy plays, some big catches that John Brown didn't this last year. I mean, obviously John Brown dealt with injury in 2020, and Emmanuel Sanders isn't getting any younger, so he has to stay healthy himself. But I'm just so thrilled with this move and confident and excited to see Josh Allen throwing passes to Emmanuel Sanders, because it's going to be special. It's going to be productive. Talk about confidence. Somebody is going to catch the ball. I mean, we got that this year with Diggs, but remember, we were wanting that for a very long time. Now we've got that in spades, I feel, with a guy like Sanders next to Diggs, with Beasley. These guys are going to be catching balls all over the field.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't expect to see the big shot plays, like John Brown did last year. Miami comes to mind. I think this team is now more intermediate, right? They're going to be able to tear it up in the intermediate part of the field, and that's actually Josh Allen's strength as a quarterback as well. So teams are going to start dialing into that and might open up some long shots. But John Brown, really, he could blow the top off the defense, and you saw that a ton. But I just don't think you're going to see that a lot early on in the season. But Diggs is now going to be that guy moving forward, and I think having Sanders on the team is going to open Diggs up a lot more. So watch out for that. Sterling, what the?
Is this a Sterling Furrow impersonator here? We got. Judging by that picture, I don't know.
Sterling says McKenzie has improved as a route runner and receiver, so his role is cemented as receiver 5 and gadget plays.
Yeah,
like I said earlier, 17 first downs. He gains 6 yards every time he touches the ball. I mean, you gotta just Not everybody can do that, right? So.
And you know what you're getting out of him, which was one of your points earlier, right? And to Sterling's point as well, that's exactly what that means. You know who this guy is and what he can do and what you want him to bring and contribute to your team. We could almost write it in the stat sheet. It's that, important of a piece in the offense that they know what he does, and he has to be able to execute, and he does. So it's perfect.
Yeah, it's a good signing, 100%. And one thing I wanted to mention just to top it off, this guy brings experience, right? 6 out of his 10 years in the league have been playoff seasons. He's been in the playoffs. He's won playoff games. He has Super Bowl rings. Nobody in the Bills roster has a Super Bowl ring except for Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, I don't think that's a huge point, but I mean, it's this team is now playing for a Super Bowl. They're not playing for draft picks. They're not playing for next year. It's this year. So I think bringing a guy like Emmanuel Sanders in is going to help the receiver room overall. All right, so let's move on to the next one here, and that is Jacob Hollister, right? Getting signed. Josh Allen's buddy. I signed him on Madden one time.
Just for Josh Allen, huh? Exactly. I know you're a big fan of that. Give Josh Allen his guys that he knows and his friends with.
I think it was the speed, right? He's quick, but I think this conversation starts with, I don't think Jacob Hollister is going to come in and be the tight end number 1, right?
No.
Right now, that is Dawson Knox's job, and I think he could come in, compete for 2. It's not going to be given 2, but I think you could put Jacob Hollister and his experience up in Seattle ahead of Tommy Sweeney, right? And that's where we'll start.
Yes.
So that role is Tyler Kroft's, right? So what did Tyler Kroft do for this offense? And do we see Jacob Hollister as an upgrade from that? Well, first off, Tyler Kroft didn't really block a lot. 83% of his routes were all receiving routes, or 83% of his snaps were receiving routes.
Yeah.
Right.
To his defense, that's what we brought him in for.
Exactly.
We knew that when we signed him.
That's kind of his game.
Yeah.
And I think you could put Jacob Hollister right in that role. Eric Turner, again, getting the reference here, quick separation to short and to intermediate routes. He's quick as a cat. Make sure you check out the film room.
Yeah.
Jacob Hollister. But
that video was, it was very enlightening.
It was. And I remember I noticed Jacob Hollister a few years ago in Seattle.
Yeah.
And he's very, very, he knows how to get open. He has a good feel for reading the defense and finding the spot to be open. Is he going to blow the top off? No. Is he the most over-the-top blocker? Not really. I think there's a fair argument to say he might be a better blocker than Tyler Kroft, but I mean, I think they bring him in as a 3rd and 5 guy, a red zone guy.
Yes.
What we saw with Tyler Kroft, but I would say upgrade. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. This is what I tweeted right when they signed him, is that this is a very Tyler Kroft replacement move, an upgrade, because now they're saying, I'll tell you this, he might be the 3rd tight end, but you know what he's not going to be? Inactive on game day. That's for damn sure. So Tyler Kroft, most of the season, they're saying, we don't even want you here, bud. This experiment did not work out. Last year, they said that too at the end of the season when they reworked his deal so that they could end his contract at the end of this season. They were just time to part ways. Sorry, this didn't work out. So now they're trying it again with a guy in Hollister who not only already has that chemistry with Josh Allen and that relationship there and can work with him, but has proven that this is a nice niche role for him to fill, right? Come on in, be that guy who can, on 3rd down, bust open and get 5 yards pretty easily, break away from the defense. He's got speed. He's got great hands. Well, as Eric Turner pointed out in the video, he was flawless through the 2020 season, and then in 2020 he had a few drops that made Seattle fans concerned about him. But he's a sure-handed guy, certainly better than Knox at this point. So it all adds up to a tight end who is a weapon, who is a threat as a receiver, and can certainly take that tight end 2-3 role from a guy like Kroft, who they were clearly not happy with, or didn't think that his skill set could contribute on game day to the point that he was inactive. I don't see that happening with Jacob Hollister unless it's like an emergency, like, oh, okay, we'll make you inactive because we're not planning to use tight ends much in this game. But he's certainly, he's a guy who's comparable to somebody like Knox in terms of he's, developmental. You can play him. He's not going to be a superstar. Well, they want Knox to be a superstar, but Hollister is probably not going to be that superstar tight end guy. But I tell you what, if he has a good enough season in Buffalo, even the likes of the Tyler Kroft type situations last year where he was getting in the red zone, getting open, getting touchdowns, he could cash in big time off of this because it's only a 1-year deal. He's a free agent next year. He could become somebody's legitimate tight end number 2 in a 2 tight end set.
And somebody mentioned how come Tyler Kroft wasn't on the field a lot. Well, there's only one football. And if you say he's there for the red zone or he's there for third down, well, we got Josh Allen, right? He just runs it anyway and gets the first down. So he really wasn't a huge need for the team, especially with all the talent they had on offense. Nathan S. Says they will probably think about a blocking tight end late in the draft. And this kind of brings up my next point. The Bills were in on Ertz, right? We don't know for sure, but there's reports out there. The Bills were in on Rudolph, who ends up with the Giants. I think they wanted more from the tight end position, and having, a pulse on those guys, I think you would have got more out of the tight end position. Obviously, things broke down. Kyle Rudolph signs with the Giants. Actually came out today. He has he needs foot surgery, so dodged a bullet there. But if you bring in an Ertz who can do it all in the short to intermediate game, just like Hollister can, right? But Ertz can block. He's a do-it-all tight end. He'd be on the field a ton. Kyle Rudolph, same thing. He's more of a down-the-field threat and a better blocker as well. He's a huge guy, but that 50-50 ball is Kyle Rudolph's strength, and he can just straight man up and get the ball, right? And I don't think they have that guy on this team. So it's interesting to hear they were in on those guys, maybe trying to upgrade that tight end spot.
I certainly don't dislike either of those players, but I was on the record multiple times saying I didn't want to get Zach Ertz at $8.3 million. I do not think he's worth that much, especially coming from a team that was going to cut him anyway, basically. Now we have to give up resources and suffer a huge cap hit that we have to deal with. I was not about that at all. I understand he brings value as a pass catcher, but I was never on the Zach Ertz to Buffalo train. So I'm kind of glad that didn't work out. I like Kyle Rudolph, too, at the right price. Oh, man, I would have loved to have him. But he cashed in on a 2-year deal, way more than I thought he was going to get. So it's a little too rich for our blood. And the Bills were like, hey, you can get that money. See ya. Have fun, man. Right. More power to you. You're worth it. Have a good time at that team and not in Buffalo. But what this sets up so nicely, and Hoof listeners have heard me say this probably on every episode since I've done the tight end special preview there, is I like Brevin Jordan. I want Brevin Jordan on this team, and it makes sense that they can bring in a tight end. Somebody said, I forget where the comment was, too, a couple of people have brought up blocking tight end. We already have that on this team. We've got Reggie Gilliam, who they list as a tight end, who's really a fullback. That literally means he's a blocker. That's what he does best. He can also catch and run, and I love Gilliam. He was one of the guys I wanted to make the roster last year.
I went and watched Brevin Jordan. Right? I did some tight ends. I know you had the Making the Case series for tight ends, so this is actually my next note, so this is perfect. I knew this was going to happen. It's like we do a show every week together or something. But the question is the tight end room set going into the season? And I don't know. It really depends how the draft falls, right? I think you could go into the season with what you got, and you'd be fine.
It all depends on the health of Tommy Sweeney, too, something that we don't know. The team clearly knows. Brandon Beane, I think he mentioned it in one of his press conferences that he said we expect him to be back and healthy and playing, which is amazing after he had a diagnosis of a heart condition after dealing with COVID, which could be a career-ending type situation. He's the guy that was supposed to be the potential replacement for Lee Smith as the blocker on the team last offseason. So if he's back on this team and on the roster, he fills that role as well. So we have those blocking guys. I think the receiving end of it is more of where they want to. And tight end is not a position where you're going to draft and all of a sudden contribute. Everybody's been giving me a hard time on Twitter, saying, oh, you want to draft a tight end, but they're not going to contribute. Great. We got Hollister and Knox. I'll take that this year. We've got all the other guys, as we've talked about, all the other receiving threat. There's only one ball to go around. We're not going to be playing many 2 tight end sets, that's for sure. So, yeah, I'm okay with getting a guy to develop and play who has a skill set that I like and want to be on this team in the future.
So let's say they draft Brevin Jordan. Do you think he has a chance to start?
No.
He's not that type of guy.
No. He has a chance to
he's a dog. I mean, he brings some energy. When the football's in his hands, he brings the energy.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying.
Exactly. He pops off the tape. If you watch he gets open, he gets separation. He's not afraid to. Yeah. I mean, so I love his skill set, and I think he has the potential to make I don't want to use the word flashy because that implies that a guy doesn't really have the talent, but he can do something special every once in a while. This guy has the talent and he can do it. And we could see that in his first year. He's just not going to be getting, 100 snaps. He's going to be getting, a few snaps a game, if that, and will have to capitalize on the opportunities when the ball actually comes his way. So, but yeah, I love the guy. So you're on board with the Brevin Jordan after watching.
Well, I watched it, so I see what you're saying. I mean, it's fun to watch, right? He comes in, he can compete for the tight end 2 spot, no doubt. I also watched Pat Freiermuth. Did I say that right? Freiermuth from Penn State. And I think Brevin Jordan is he's the better athlete right now.
Yeah.
He could come in, contribute right now.
Yes. To me, Freiermuth is the guy he's bland. He's good. He's consistent. He can do what he can do.
Yes.
But he's not exciting. He's not like a huge threat.
I do think Freiermuth has the higher upside. A few years down the road, I think he'll be the better guy.
Why?
Just because
out of curiosity.
At the size, I think he's going to put on some weight, right? Muscle, maybe not weight, but muscle. But he just, I just think he needs a little bit of coaching to finish plays, to find he relied more on his hands instead of getting separation, right? I think he needs to work on his route running a little bit, but just that build, that athleticism at 6'5", Brevin Jordan, I know that's only 2-inch difference, but I mean, you look at all the great tight ends in the league, the top 8 we always talk about that can do it all. They're all bigger guys, right? Taller. So I think Freiermuth does have a lot of upside, but Brevin Jordan, I think, comes in and contributes day one to this team. So, I mean, I see why you're excited there.
And Freiermuth is coming off an injury, so there's no question. There's a question of how that's going to affect his draft stock and all of that. I think he is more like the NFL ready. I think he'll be drafted before Brevin Jordan, if that makes sense, right? I'm higher on Brevin Jordan, but I actually think Pat Freiermuth will be drafted first. And I think we could get Brevin Jordan in the 3rd round, and I would go nuts for that. I nailed it last year. Zach Moss in the 3rd round. That's what I wanted all year. And now it's this year. It's Brevin Jordan. Give me Brevin Jordan in the 3rd round. I've been saying it all the way through consistently. Maybe it'll happen again for me because that's the guy I want to see on this team and see him live up to his potential. Because what I've been saying again on Twitter to a lot of people is show me 2023 Dawson Knox, Brevin Jordan at tight end. Hell yes. That is a 2 tight end receiving threat right there. And we've got the wide receivers to go with it. So I'd love to see that offense.
Yeah. More draft stuff coming. I mean, I can't wait, getting closer. We're going to be killing that in the next couple of weeks. So this is kind of one of the more fun times of year. Let's move on to the next one here. Is Mitch Trubisky a bust? And this is going to be because he's on the team now. We can go through this, right?
Yeah.
Caught me off guard big time. I did not think the Bills would bring in Mitch Trubisky. I mean, we joked and people would ask us who's the best backup in the NFL. Well, it used to be Tyrod Taylor, but now it's Mitch Trubisky. So, what do you think? Now let's talk about busts for a minute. I'll give you my thoughts first, just to get you rolling here. I think because he's drafted high, the expectation is higher, right? He's not a straight up bust like a Johnny Manziel or a Jamarcus Russell, right? He did lead his team to the playoffs one time. Maybe not lead, that might be a strong word. Got his team to the playoffs. When it counted, he led his team down the field, got him in field goal range, missed the field goal. But I mean, there is something there. I think he is a talented guy. He's got feet.
Sure.
I mean, I've seen him make beautiful throws. He seemed a little confused with the offense up there in Chicago. Kind of got off on the wrong foot. I mean, you saw the way that they were talking to him on the sideline. So I wouldn't say he's a complete bust because he's drafted number 2 overall by Chicago in a year with Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes come in the league. He didn't meet expectations. So there is different forms of busts, right? So I would say he can play in the league. He's going to be in the league for a long time. Maybe not a starter, but didn't meet expectations. Is that fair?
Yeah. I think that's certainly fair. He didn't meet expectations as a number 2 overall pick. But let's remember, this guy came from North Carolina, where he played 1 season, 1 starting season. And that was why some people were shocked he went as high as he did, because it's like, you don't really know who this guy is. Is he that talented player who flashed at North Carolina? Or, is he going to end up being a big bust? He certainly has the size, the skill set, the arm. Where was the Coconut Pete throwing up the stats here? I love this winning record.
Right.
2-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 64% completion percentage. That's better than average stuff in the NFL. That's certainly acceptable quality stuff. But I think, Eric, what you said is the key. Being drafted number 2 overall, you're expected to come in and be the savior of the world. You are going to not only bring this team places, and certainly if you're in a rebuild, if you're drafting at number 2, by your 4th year as a starter, you should be confidently that guy that they are moving forward with. And they did kind of mess him around in Chicago a little bit. They didn't develop him as well. But I think that's part of the reason why he came to Buffalo. He saw the growth that Josh Allen had and said, hey, this guy has similar skill sets to me. Hey, I want to be like this guy. Let me learn from this guy and these coaches and this team that developed this guy and show that I can improve on the things that have been holding me back.
Right.
Because, yeah, he's kind of that average. I think this 2020 year for Trubisky was what I think of him in a nutshell. He was average at QB. He's going to be the guy to not screw it up, basically. He's not going to lose you games, but he doesn't always give you those exciting plays and go for it. Part of that was the offense he was in. Chicago wasn't some bomb it down the field, let's throw it deep all like the Bills are, right? We're not afraid to run it and gun it, right? But Chicago just wasn't that type of team. That wasn't the receivers they had. That wasn't the offense they ran. They were certainly more of a run the ball, let the quarterback manage the game kind of team. And I think he did well in that. And to have him as a backup, holy cow, man. And
that's
think
huge.
about what the number one concern for all of Bills Mafia was for the last 2 years, if not more. That was, if Josh Allen gets hurt, we're screwed. We got nothing. Like Matt Barkley, we love the guy, love his energy, love his ability to help Josh learn and grow.
Right.
But if he's on the field, you're no longer making the playoffs, basically, right? Now with Mitch Trubisky, you at least have a guy who can go 500 or better and, probably carry your team if Josh Allen should go down. So having this talented roster plus Mitch Trubisky is only a good thing for us Bills fans, because he's going to learn and grow on this team. So it's great for him. But our team is better, more secure, more depth because of it. Because now we have a guy we can be more confident saying, here you go, you're the starter now, if Josh Allen should get injured and go down for a couple games.
Right. And I think Mitch Trubisky, he showed growth every year. I thought he was a lot more confident last year, where he made it kind of difficult for Chicago to cut him. And there was some chatter of him being re-signed. And I think that he made it difficult for them to actually let him go. And that's kind of what you want to see. I like how he's mature enough to just take the less money, see how a good organization is ran, because we can say that right now, learn from a stud quarterback that we have in Josh Allen, and then get back on the market later and see what you can do.
I'm not about this comparison. No. Trubisky, I love Trubisky. I've been calling him that too, but I don't believe he's the Tyrod type QB. Tyrod couldn't throw the ball that deep. Tyrod was a secure guy. Like, okay, let's not take the risk. Let's run it when we can. Let's, throw the ball short, go to the sure-handed guy instead of taking chances. Trubisky is not afraid to throw the ball deep or take chances when it's given to him. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, which is great, but he's not afraid to take the chances if they're presented.
Right. So leads us into let's do some hot air takes, right? We've been doing too much analytical stuff. It's off season. We kind of got to play with it. So let's do some cash or trash.
We're going to do a little cash or trash. That's trash, bro. I'm going to go cash on that.
Cash or trash. The first one, make sure you're answering the comments. Mitch Trubisky finishes the entire season with the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh.
Cash or trash? I'll let you go first.
Wow. I'm going to go cash for sure here. I think he does finish the season because of everything we just talked about. The reason he came here, he decided to come here. Make no mistake about it. He probably called Brandon Beane or said, hey, can I come play for you guys? What will it take? And he's like, well, we don't really have the money for it. How about $2.5 million? Okay. I really want to learn from you guys and do this. So from the team standpoint of security of having a second QB you can count on, and Trubisky's standpoint of I want to stay with the team and learn and be a better free agent in 2022, I absolutely have to go cash with this.
All right, we got a lot more cashes in the comments than trashes. We got one trash, and that's Coconut Pete coming in hot tonight.
We're disagreeing on this one, Pete.
So I'll go cash just because like I said earlier, the Bills aren't in this for draft picks. They're not in this to develop a quarterback and maybe win an investment. They're in it to win the Super Bowl, right? And can quarterbacks get hurt in the playoffs? Absolutely. Can quarterbacks get hurt in week 16? Absolutely. And I think that's why you bring a guy like Mitch Trubisky in. If you do get in the playoffs, you want to finish the job. There's a lot on the line this season with maybe Daboll's last year, could be our defensive coordinators last year, blanking his name right now.
Leslie Frazier.
Yeah, Leslie Frazier, duh. And, you never know what's going to happen with them. So the moment is now. I think bringing a guy like Trubisky in is awesome. So I agree with the majority, cash all day. Let's go to the next one. Levi Wallace is the Bills' Week 1 starter at CB2. Cash or trash?
This is a tough one. I think we asked this same exact question in the preseason last year. And what happened?
Again, it's like the McKenzie thing. It's just, it's that time of year again.
Back, right? Yeah. He just keeps coming back. And for that reason, I'm going to say that on our first defensive snap, he is a starter out there. So I will say cash on this one as well. I think that he right now has the trust and confidence of McDermott and Bean. They know what he is and what he can be. Therefore, they're going to put him out there. I don't care if we draft a first-round cornerback and have Dane Jackson competing with him. Levi's still the guy that they are comfortable with. They know him. They know what he can do. They know what he's limited on. So regardless, that first snap, he might only play half the snaps as CB2, and they'll rotate in Dane Jackson or said rookie in the draft. But I still believe come that first snap, Levi Wallace will be the starter.
So you're going cash with that? Okay. And there's a lot of mixed feelings here as well. I'm going to go cash as well. I wish we would disagree, but Levi Wallace, he's been in this system a long time. He knows that they feel comfortable with him, obviously. He did take a discount to come back here, I think, so added value there. And I do think the Bills bring in a rookie, but you know how McDermott likes to develop rookies. He takes his time, right? He doesn't just throw them in there and watch them struggle and hope they learn. He takes it slow. So I'll go cash. Levi Wallace is likely the Bills starter for cornerback 2. Okay, I got 2 more. Let's hit this one. Cash or trash. The Bills should take a running back with the 30th pick. Cough, Sterling. If it's one of the top 3, so ETN, Najee Harris, or Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. If they're on the board, the Bills take them. Cash or trash?
It's so hard to say cash or trash with these situations like this, because tell me who else is on the board. Is there a top CB2 on the board? Because then I'm going trash all day because I want that CB2. Screw you, running back. We'll get one in the 3rd round again. No, thank you. I mean, I know that guys like ETN are playmakers and difference makers, and the Bills would be happy if one of them fell to their laps and the other guys that they were looking at are not on their board. At the end of the day, Sean McDermott is still a defensive coach. I've said this year after year, and he comes through year after year. He wants the best defensive players he can get. And in the draft, he tends to favor those guys. And I'm telling you that if there's a cornerback he loves that falls to this spot, that's who he's going to take over any of these running backs if they're all still on the board. And if they're all still on the board, he's even more likely to not take one because they will probably still be there to trade up in the 2nd round, which I would love the value of trading up in the 2nd round to get one of those 3 guys, especially ETN or Harris. Although at this point on my mock draft board, I think ETN and Harris are both gone by 30, and I'm not sure Williams is worth picking over one of those defensive guys or the number 1 interior offensive lineman or whatever it may be that McBean ends up taking. So I have to go trash all the way. I know if Sterling were here, he'd be all over me. He was the first one in Bills Mafia ever to say that the Bills should draft a running back in the 1st round, and he got a lot of shit for it, including from Eric and I, and I'll still give him it because, I just don't see running back in the 1st round as, even with a playmaker like that, as a possibility, unless it's worst case scenario on the draft board.
Right. So I've kind of changed my take a little bit on this. I'm going to go cash. I think they do take one of these guys if they're there, because I mean, we saw what happened with Kansas City taking Edwards-Helaire, and that helped them a ton. And I particularly like Etienne and Najee Harris, obviously, but I don't see the problem with taking a running back at 30. If we're picking top 15, that's different when you talk about running back value. And there is running backs that are good enough. Saquon Barkley was certainly good enough to be a top 5 pick. Just because the position's lower value doesn't mean you just ignore it completely, right? So I think if there is one of these guys that does fall back to 30, that's good, great value for the Bills. Maybe not with Williams, but definitely the other two. And that's a huge need for them. I mean, and I do agree with Roman right here that O-line is the problem, not running back. I made the case for offensive line, and I certainly think guard is one of the top needs for the Bills, but maybe the value is not there. You can get a decent guard in the second round at 30, and take one there because you do have, Feliciano, Cody Ford coming back, re-signed Darrell Williams. You can afford to be a little bit flexible at guard. Whereas running back, I don't know. These guys are top talents. They're going to change the offense. They're going to add a whole nother element day one, and going all in for a Super Bowl. You need day one starters.
Yeah, so that if anything, what you just said leads me more to believe that they would go lineman at 30 before they would even go running back. Let's fix the problem we have before trying to, hit it with a hammer again. If it's not the running backs, then bringing in another talented, speedy receiver running back who is worthy of being picked there. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't see it for the Bills because an interior offensive lineman who can compete with Feliciano for a starting job on day one is certainly more valuable to me than, another running back if we're going to have the same problems of opening holes for those running backs.
Right. And I agree with that as well. But these guys are just too good. All right. So let's go to the last one here. Last cash or trash. The New England Patriots finished second in the AFC East.
You're asking me that? You're asking me where the New England Patriots are going to finish in this division.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you said third last year.
They spent $300 bazillion on the NFL team. Poor Croft is worried he's going to lose his empire. And now what? They're going to finish second because they signed a bunch of talented players? Who do you think you are, the New York Yankees?
Somebody's got to finish second.
This doesn't work in football. Literally. Excuse me.
Oh, whoa.
Hey.
So you must think Miami is going to be second over New England. Obviously, the Jets need a year, right? I think they are building something there, but they need a year. It's between the Patriots and the Dolphins, and I really don't have a lot of faith in Tua. I'm trying to be patient. I'm not going to judge him yet. I know it takes time to learn in the NFL, but I mean,
I think New England will be better on defense for sure. They're getting players back. They shored things up. They brought in a guy like Judon. They are going to be better on defense. Their offense, they brought in playmakers. Who's their quarterback? The NFL revolves around quarterback. And you brought back a very underwhelming Cam Newton who looked like he couldn't throw the ball 3 yards at the end of the season last year. So, I mean, great. You can bring in every threat there is. If I'm throwing them the ball, they're not going to get much done, right? And right now, Cam Newton is doing more with his legs than he is with his arm, which is not going to bode well for that New England offense. They got their 2 tight ends back that they love. They got the system, but I don't think it's going to propel them into second place. In fact, I would go as far to say that this year, I think they have a more likelihood of finishing last in the division than they do second. Last, behind the New York Jets. And I'm dead serious. I think they lose at least one game to the New York Jets this year. It's not going to be pretty for this team. They think all of a sudden they're going to bring it. Since when is Bill Belichick the guy to come in and all of a sudden gel a million new people? He's never done that. Never in his career. That's not the guy he is. He doesn't sign a million players and turn a team around. He's in panic mode, and so is the New England Patriots after his disastrous season they had. They're throwing money at the wall. They're putting all these guys in, and I have a feeling it's going to blow up in their faces. It's not going to work out well. I still expect that defense to play well. I still expect them to compete. The Bills aren't going to blow them away every game. They might get one on them every once in a while. One of the two matchups they play, they could blow them out 30 points plus, but they're going to be competitive games. They're just not going to win them. They haven't gotten over that hump. And I have no faith in this team, no faith in Belichick. No.
Right. And I think Greg Thompson said it best. I think it was Greg. Belichick is trying to get the all-time coaching win record, and I think he's I can't remember how many games he was away.
He needs to win. Yeah, close. He said – Joe Marino said this too. He needs to win 9 to 10 games or something.
It wasn't Greg. It was Joe. It was Joe Marino, right?
He can't win, 4, 5, 6 games every year. He's got to start winning 9 games a year at least.
He wants to retire earlier. You bring in free agency, try to get 8 wins, right? That's a decent theory. But I think Miami finishes second, so I say trash on that. I think Miami's the better team. They proved that last year, getting snubbed out of the playoffs last year. But it all is riding on Tua. And from what I've seen so far, there's work to be done. I think bringing Brissett in is a good move because then you could go back to somebody.
Yeah, right? have that safety blanket like they did.
And it might be enough. That might be enough to get them in the playoffs. We'll see. They're taking 2 L's to the Bills. So
I've said it multiple times that my favorite bet from last year was New England, and the one that paid out the most was New England to finish 3rd in the division. Now that they've made all these signings, the dollar signs are lighting up in my head because not only am I going to make the bet that they finish 3rd in the division, I'm going to make the bet. I'm going to put money down that they finish last in the division just because the payout's going to be ridiculously good. So it's more realistic that they finish 3rd, but don't be surprised if they lose a game to the Jets this year.
Yeah, fair. All right, so let's get to our next segment. Sticking with the AFC East, looking around at the rivals. We've beat up on the Bills free agency the last 2 shows. And now let's get into what our rivals did, right? The Patriots, Jets, Dolphins all made moves. And so we're going to grade just a couple of them. There's a ton of them. I'm not going to get into it, but maybe just the highlights. And Anthony and I will grade each player as we see fit. So let's start with the first one. And if you're ready to go, Matt Judon of the New England Patriots comes over from Baltimore to New England.
Yeah, let's set this up a little bit. We're not grading the contract, right? We're just grading the player acquisition.
Player fit with the team. Do you like it? Do you not like it? The grades are A, B, C, and F.
All right, so here we go, Matt. So for Judon going to the Patriots.
Judon. Yep, what do you got?
A.
A.
I hate it. I don't want to give the Patriots an A for anything, but this tells you that I know my own biases when they come in. That is, a move for them that I really like. He was one of the best pass rushers out there, and they brought him in. This was their direct move saying, we're afraid of Josh Allen. We need to get in his face as quickly as possible, as hard as possible, as much as possible. We'll give this guy whatever money he wants to come here and start fighting to get through that offensive line of the Bills and put some pressure on Josh Allen. So this was my favorite move that New England made for them. I feel like
I thought it was a good move too.
Smart. Yeah.
Again, they are playing to beat Josh Allen. Matt Judon gave him a hard time when he played in Baltimore. 32 quarterback pressures by Matt Judon. He had a great year last year. His missed tackle percentage was cut in half from 14% in 2019 to 7% in 2020. That'll get you paid, especially by the Patriots. Do have a super chat by Scott.
Hey, Scott. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks for the awareness, Scott. Appreciate it. We love showing up every week. Thanks everybody for tuning in week in, week out in this Bills off season. I get creative with the content. There's only a couple things going on, but it is
fun this time of year. We're waiting for, draft time. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing our mock drafts and everything. And it's just fun to come on here and chat with you guys. I'm loving the chat right now. It's all you guys are participating, answering yourselves. This is great. Please continue this. This is awesome. This is what we come for.
All right, so you ready for the next one?
Let's go. What do you got?
Jonnu Smith, sticking with New England. Jonnu Smith coming over from Tennessee. What you got?
We don't have pluses and minuses, right, in our system right now. No. So I'm going to go B. B here because I like his skill set. I brought his name up multiple times, and if the Bills could get him on a 1-year, $8 million deal, I would be solid with that move. I think he's a good player who could, get open and find the ball. All the things I said about him before this are true. The fact that he went to New England, I don't like, obviously. It makes me like the player a lot less too now. But his skill set is the same, and he's certainly an upgrade in that offense they had basically no tight end last year. So I do like that move as much as it irks me, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with the B grade. Look, I can see the upside of Jonnu Smith. 5.1 yards before the catch per reception, meaning he catches balls underneath, right? He's not really a down the field guy. He's famous for that, I think it was a jet sweep or a short pass where he ran 90 yards. I think you can incorporate a lot of that stuff with Cam Newton, and his struggles were throwing the ball down the field. So I think you bring the game closer to Cam where there's less mistakes to be made, and just control the offense, control the clock, and they have a chance to win. So I'll say B as well there on Jonnu Smith. So let's stick with tight ends, though. Hunter Henry next.
Oh, my God. I can't believe this one. I'm going to go C, right? And you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. Hunter Henry was the best available tight end in free agency. There's no doubt about that. And you just said you gave Jonnu Smith a B. So why did you give Hunter Henry a C? Because you already just signed Jonnu Smith. You gave 2 tight ends now. Oh, what? Jonnu Smith was going to be that guy for you. Now you bring in Hunter Henry too. So you're going to have 2 of the tight ends that want the ball every play. And I get that that's what your system was in the before, but you don't have Tom Brady playing quarterback anymore. You've got Cam Newton. So I don't know how these 2 guys are going to play together on this field. Again, that whole concept of you're bringing totally new guys into a totally new playing field with a totally new offense now. It's not going to gel on day one, and they're going to be more competing with each other than they are cooperating with each other, I feel, even when they're both on the field. Only one of them can get the ball. So Henry, I would have given any other team an A or a B for signing him probably. We knew what he was going to get contract-wise. Again, we're not factoring that into our grades here, but why pay both tight ends to be the highest paid and all of that? And so I don't know if it's a good fit. I have to go see there.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, Hunter Henry does have huge upside, but he's been in the league a while now with different quarterbacks. It's not like Phillip Rivers was a terrible quarterback when he was with the LA Chargers. He just can't stay healthy. And I think he had his best year last year, right? And I think that's what Bill Belichick is targeting here. But just to, like you said, overpaying for unproven tight ends. I mean, why not just go get a proven guy? A Zach Ertz. Spend your first round pick. I mean, try to get a quarterback in there. I mean, they're rolling with Cam. Again, I like the idea of bringing the game to Cam. Tight ends help with that. But still, get some speed on the field. There's no speed on this team anymore. Jonnu Smith's your fastest guy.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't get into the wide receivers even. Is that your last Patriots one? I don't know if you got.
I got one more.
You got one more.
Ready? Kyle Van Noy for this one. It'll be the last Patriot.
Okay. Kyle Van Noy. You know what? I'm going to go solid B here because he did get cut by Miami, but he signed that big contract with them. He got some guaranteed money. He gets to go back to where he became a great player and was, certainly a fit in that Patriots defense. Knows his role coming in day one. He goes against the trend of what I was just saying about bringing in new guys and seeing what they can do. He comes in very comfortable to this offense or defense. He's going to know his role. So I'm okay with that move. I think it's a B for them. He's not an all-star player, so I'll shy away from the A. But it's a decent move.
Yeah, so it looks like a lot of B's, and Lone Wolf puts out a C. Maybe it's because we don't like the guy. F+. I like that. Thanks, Rod.
Nice. Solid with the F+.
Calvin Noy knows the system. He knows New England. They were kind of lacking some beef on defense. So I had to put one defensive player in there. I think you hit that pretty well. But he's just a contributor, right? He's not going to come in and blow the top off. I mean, especially after Josh Allen ran his ass over, he's probably embarrassed now. So. All right, so let's move on to the next team, the New York Jets. They made a ton of moves. And let's start with Carl Lawson, somebody the Bills we all thought should have targeted. What'd you give Carl Lawson to the Jets?
This one's a no-brainer, easy A for me, and I'll argue with anybody who's trying to say otherwise. This is one of the best pass rushers in free agency, and the Jets needed it, and they had the cap space. It would be more of a mistake if they didn't sign him than the fact that they did. He was one of the targets that was desired by Bills fans. He certainly got paid way more than Bills fans thought he was going to get if he came here. This is A+. I would give him if possible. It was certainly probably the best signing in the division at this point. Certainly the biggest threat, the biggest upgrade of, instead of being on our side as we wanted, now he's going to be coming after Josh Allen. And we have to hope that our offensive line knows how to deal with him. So, probably one of my favorite signings. Easy.
Yeah, and he had 44 pressures on 68% of the snaps for the Bengals last season. And you look around at these I looked at all the pass rushers. I had the Making the Case series for defensive line as well. And Carl Lawson stood out because he had more pressures than J.J. Watt, than Houston, than Melvin Ingram. I mean, he had a ton. And, I think he would bode well with the Bills in that offense, in that defense, because you could drop him back and you can move him around. But goes to the Jets, takes the money, and runs. I think they need an edge player. And that's not – he's fast, too, so that's not good for Josh Allen, especially when he's playing, when he's mobile.
Exactly.
Jets twice a year. So,
and you're talking about a position on the lowly Jets team that was their best – if you had one spot, you'd say what was their best play. It'd be their defensive line. And now you're adding a guy like Lawson to the talent they already have. Their high round draft picks of the past who are playing now are happy to see him too, because it makes them better. Right now, you have to pay more attention to Carl Lawson. Well, who's going to be on the other side? We still got a couple of big bodied guys who can come after Josh Allen as well. So it was just a great move for them all around.
So far, I think there's a theme, right? Everyone's focusing on defensive lines. Let's flip over the offense.
Hey, Robbie joined us. What's up, Robbie? Yeah, go ahead.
Corey Davis coming over from Tennessee joins the Jets. What do you give that one?
I'll give this one a B. I like Corey Davis. I think, he has a certain skill set to be a viable player for this team. They were desperate on the offense for playmakers. I think he upgrades the position. He makes guys that they drafted, like Denzel Mims last year, better or, more versatile. I like this move. B, it's not a blow me out of the water move for me. Well, apparently only one Buffalo is a huge fan of him, but I still think this is a B. Solid move. Good upgrade for them. They needed it. They found a guy that can fill in for them and upgrade that position and make the others better around him.
Right. Now, if this was the same coaching staff as last season, I'd probably give this a C.
Yeah, right.
Because
they're going to destroy his career.
Well, the offensive coordinator is LaFleur, right? His brother's in Green Bay, right? So we know he likes to run the ball there. Coming from San Francisco, working as the passing coordinator under Kyle Shanahan, right? So we know that he likes that San Francisco style run first, gets the passing game open, right? And I think that with Corey Davis, if you think about Deebo Samuel in San Francisco and those quick slants, they were working because the defense is focused on the run, right? And I think the Jets need to develop a run game. And if you could get those quick slants with a guy like Corey Davis, he's going to have a huge upside in this offense. Mm-hmm. And I think it could revitalize his career. So I'm going to go A there for Corey Davis.
I think Justin brings up a good point here about, don't forget who their quarterback is. We don't know who their quarterback is.
Yeah,
so
still don't know.
That's part of the reason it's still only a B for me is we don't know what's happening with this offense in terms of the quarterback position.
All right,
but
so
he does make the wide receivers better at the least. That's why I focused on that side of it.
Right, but I don't know, because if you're limiting Darnold down to 20 passes a game, let's say 20 to 25, I think that helps him, especially if you build a run game. They have Mekhi Becton from last season. If they can develop some kind of run game that's going to limit Darnold to passing, I think that's going to really open up Corey Davis, regardless of who the quarterback is, right? Look how many quarterbacks Kyle Shanahan in that offense in San Francisco went through, and they were still pretty productive. Both of the quarterbacks for the Jets, potential Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold, or even Justin Fields, are all more talented than those backup quarterbacks in San Francisco. So I think there's a huge upside there. Anyway, let's move on. Sheldon Rankins, the last one for the Jets, comes over from New Orleans. Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle.
I'm like between. I'll go B for this one. I really wanted to go C, but I think he has talent, so that's why I ended up going B. But he could be a C on this team because we don't know that New Orleans defensive line was very talented, had a lot of great guys. So does this Jets defensive line. Again, now that I said that before, these guys are going to be a difference maker for this team. This is the position we're going to be talking about on this team when we do our Jets preview. It's the defensive line, and he is, at least an upgrade for them. At the very least, was he the best player fit guy they wanted to sign? Maybe not. Maybe he was their second or third choice, but it's upgrades them. It keeps them consistent. They're a good defensive line, and he has a skill set that can translate well. He doesn't have to be the guy on this defensive line with guys like Carl Lawson around him. So we'll see if they can put it all together. But certainly with this Jets team, this defensive line is looking pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree there. Sheldon Rankins comes in. B's solid, I think, for him. And I don't know, kind of later in his career, but because you're pairing him with Quentin Williams, who has a ton of potential, I think that's going to be a nasty, middle defensive line. They're going to be tough to line up against. I mean, the shotgun handoffs that the Bills do on the inside, right? That's going to be a lot more difficult with those two guys at defensive tackle, right? Teaming up takes the pressure off Rankins, takes the pressure off Williams, right? It's almost like Starr and Ed.
Exactly.
Tandem, and those are two good players, no doubt.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the last team here, Miami Dolphins. And let's start with the quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Already talked about him a little bit. What do you think that grade is?
I'm going to give them a solid A for Brissett. I think this is a smooth move for them. They can still improve. If Tua does his thing, then Brissett never sees the field. But just like we talked about having Mitchell Trubisky as a backup to Josh Allen, the same applies to in this case. I think they just got better bringing him in. Brissett's a guy who, if Tua fails, as we've already said on the show, he can come in and be their savior, kind of like Fitz was. Tua ain't getting it done. Put this guy out there, and he at least knows what he's doing out there as now a veteran. And we don't know what his maximum potential is. But, he could be a starting quarterback in this league. He just didn't get the opportunity after, Indy decided to move on and try somebody else. So it's good potential upside. It was a cheap deal. It was a solid bring it in. We need somebody to push Tua as well as learn from. And similar skill set and all that. I like this move a lot.
Yeah, I do too. A veteran, been in multiple offenses. I mean, you got to do everything you can to help your rookie quarterback. Especially Tua's a top 5 pick. You got to do everything you can. I think they're doing that. They're bringing in veterans. Fitzy didn't work out, but I think you bring in a fresh perspective as well with Jacoby Brissett, and he might be able to add to the room, right? Some ideas or things he's seen. That should help. And so, I'll give him a high grade there. And I don't know what the contract was. I'll leave that for you later in the week, but be interested to see how they did there. I got two more for the Dolphins. Let's start with, because we're on Tua's development, Will Fuller coming over from the Texans joins the Miami Dolphins.
This is a solid B for me. I very solid B. You could make the argument for A based on his skill set and what he can do for Tua. Again, I'm thinking in this offense, Will Fuller could be, a speedy guy who can get open fast. We know Tua doesn't throw the ball deep or do some crazy playmaking things, but a guy like Fuller who's speedy, who can get open, can be a comfort blanket for somebody like Tua. And they needed a guy at wide receiver to be exactly that, right? They have some playmakers like Parker and, who's a good receiver, but I think Fuller brings it up a notch and really helps out the development of that offense.
Yeah, Coconut gives Fuller an F.
Wow. F, that's brutal.
He hasn't finished the season, but he did have career highs last year, 53 receptions, 879 yards, 8 touchdowns for the Texans, and that's all career highs for him. So I would go, I'll go B just because you are trying to help your quarterback out. They were kind of missing that speed guy. Who knows if Will Fuller, he may have lost a step. He's had a lot of injuries, but You got the Devontae Parker who can go up and get it. You got Mike Gesicki who can go up and get it. They need a speed guy who's consistent. I understand they have some speed guys. Who's the little fast guy for the Miami?
Which
Grant? I think it's Grant.
Okay.
Super fast, but he just can't hold on to the football. I think Will Fuller is
the fact that
another element to the offense that they haven't got to. And I like Preston Williams too, who's another go up and get it type guy. So that's a good Jakeem Grant. Thank you, Magic Catfish.
Jakeem,
yeah, super fast guy, but just hasn't really developed into what you think he would. Has a couple plays here and there. But anyway, let's hit the last one for the Dolphins. Adam Butler coming over from New England joins the Miami Dolphins at defensive tackle.
I don't want to go F because I think that's rough, but he could go that low. I'll give him a C. This one isn't moving the needle for me. It's not super exciting for them. I'm not sure it makes a difference for them. Maybe it's an upgrade. Who knows? There's potential there. They clearly like him. They didn't learn their lesson last time signing New England Patriots. So we'll see how it works out. But a C from me.
Yeah, see, he only played 47% of the snaps in New England, 15 quarterback pressures for Adam Butler. Contributes. Christian Wilkins is there. He's the starter, but again, depth. I think there's some value there. Jeff King coming through.
Super chat.
Saving us from Jeff. Adam Butler. Thank you, Jeff. Draft talk. I want a running back, some help on the O-line, and an edge rusher would definitely set this party off right. Is it gonna be? Well, let me ask you, Anthony, what is the top need for this Buffalo Bills team going into the draft?
This is the best part of what Brandon Beane does, right? Because my answer is simple. Nothing. Not a single position is the biggest need. Nothing. Literally no answer. You can make a case for cornerback 2. You can make a case for offensive line. You can make a case for return wide receiver. You can make a case for running back. But that's exactly an ideal situation to be coming in the draft. Because now you've got all these scouts and all these guys you trust who have ranked every college player available. And you can literally look at your board and say, this guy fell because 5 quarterbacks were picked in this draft, and we're going to pick this guy. If it were me picking, we already talked about this, I'm not going running back in round 1. If one of those guys falls, trade up into round 2 and get him there. But I don't see picking him in round 1. If there's one of those edge guys, everybody's saying edge, I agree that most likely if one of those edge guys is still on the board, bam, you get him because that's another position that you could argue is the biggest position to need. But let's not forget, we got Starr, we got Addison, we've got Epinesa coming into his second year, getting a bigger role. So you can make an argument that that's not as big a role, and you could get one of those guys in the second or third round. Cornerback is one where I do like the guys in the second and third round versus somebody we might have to draft at the end of the first. But man, I absolutely love it. And I think the combination, what did Jeff say for the combination? A running back, O-line help, edge rusher. Certainly that combination would upgrade this team in a good way, right? And we'd all be happy with that combination of guys, for sure. You already know that I want tight end to be in there, at least in the top 3, because I think the third round is the spot to get a guy like Brevin Jordan. So, yeah, I would put those 3. Certainly, I would be happy with that, and I wouldn't be, stomping my feet at what the Bills did.
I blame this on Sterling. Jeff King coming back at us. It's a play on the Kanye song called
Slow Jam.
Sorry. Country
Sterling
guy
would have got
here.
that right away.
Sterling, man. You can blame him. Come back next week. He'll be here, and we'll talk shit to him.
Sterling's he's gonna give us shit for not knowing that right away. Yep.
Thanks, Jeff, for throwing that in there.
Yes, thanks, Jeff.
But I agree with a lot what you said. I mean, because of the re-signs, the Bills don't have a top need, in my opinion. I would say if you're just going straight positions, top needs, it's edge player. Why? Because the positional value is super high.
Yes.
Right. But I think if one of the premier running backs falls, who is the least value position, right, running back, I still think you take one because for me, it's more about what player is going to come in here and contribute day one. That's what I'm looking for if I'm Brandon Beane in the first round at least, right? But I think, cornerback too, we've talked about a lot on our shows. I mean, that's a luxury. We haven't had, if they take a corner in the first round, we just haven't seen a first-round talent at cornerback too. It's always Levi Wallace, who's an undrafted guy, talented corner, but just not over-the-top talented. And then a veteran, right? Washed-up veteran, it seems like. So, I mean, if you get a first-round talent at cornerback and it hits, that is going to be something we haven't seen. This is going to be a top secondary, in my opinion, because they've been top 3 with Levi Wallace and company. But, after watching Tampa Bay, versus the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I have a crush on a defensive line.
Yeah.
An attacking defensive line that can get to the quarterback. McDermott's defense is more linebacker, right? They want the linebackers to confuse the quarterback and confuse the offensive line to get pressure on the quarterback. But just watching Tampa Bay line up and rush 4 was kind of refreshing. And I think if we could get one of those top 4 edge guys and, Rusu, Phillips,
any of
Ojari out of Georgia.
I mean, the pass rush at 30,
right?
If one of those guys,
4.
if one of those guys falls and is there, I think the Bills pick him. I think it was Mike Lucas, my buddy from college. He is in the chat and has been from the beginning. So thanks for tuning in here. He brought up trading back, right? As we've talked about many times on this show before. If we see multiple guys on the board that we like, I can absolutely see Brandon Beane saying, we can get one of these guys now or trade back and be strategic and get 2 guys in that second round. And I think I've been saying that since last year, that with the way COVID has made uncertainty in the college football season in 2020, that maybe the idea in this season is to go into the second and third rounds where there's guys who, didn't get a chance to show their best talent off in the season and might be steals of this draft. This is certainly one of the most, a draft where none of the players are absolute certainties, and some of the players that fall are going to be absolute stars. So it's going to be interesting going forward. But I'm all for trading back and getting 2 difference makers in that second round, or using those other picks, trading back and then trading back up to get 3 second round picks and then calling it a day. Because for a couple of reasons, we're limited on cap space. We have multiple positions we want to improve. There's going to be still cheap guys on the veteran market, don't forget. So maybe we miss on the cornerback we want, but there's a cheap veteran cornerback who's willing to come in and help out at CB2 where in a rotational role. It could be amazing for the Bills this year, and certainly exciting, good position to be in. How many times have we been able to say that we are sitting pretty in the draft? And this is absolutely where we are right now.
Right. And like I said, Brandon Beane set it up where they could just take best available, and that's what I fully expect them to do. But we'll definitely talk about these positions moving forward. Somebody the moment mentions Greg Newsome. Go ahead, check out our show from last week. I sat down with Russell Brown. He's a scout with Cover One, and we went through each position for the Bills, got some of the top narratives, and I basically asked him, is it fact or is it fiction? And Greg Newsome was a big part of that. So it's on YouTube, Bills NFL draft narratives for the Hoof. Be sure to check that out, get more details about the draft. I'm excited to pick up draft conversations moving forward. Free agency is always fun, but it's kind of a down year for the Bills. They're just re-signing everybody. So, looking forward to get this. This will probably be our last week of free agency, and we'll start kicking off the draft next week. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm loving this. This is a lot of fun, and we've been leading up to the draft kind of with our Making the Case series and kind of teasing a few names, but I'm excited to actually go through it and start picking the guys we think are going to be on the board by doing our own mock drafts and our round 1 drafts. And I'm sure on the show before leading up to the draft, we'll bring a couple guys on and do our own mock draft, literally live, playing the roles of those teams, picking guys and seeing who falls to the Bills at 30, because there's going to be a lot of different scenarios, and I can't wait to play it all out and see where my head would be and how that matches up with McDermott and Beane come draft day.
Yeah, so we'll end the show there. But thank you, everybody, for listening tonight. Had a ton of fun interacting with everybody.
Great job in the chat.
It's always kind of nice just to put some hot air out there, So that felt good. And I appreciate everybody participating. So look at all these pro days tomorrow. Coconut says South Carolina's pro day tomorrow. Be sure to check that out. There's a top corner. Is it Jared Horn? I forget his first name.
Yep.
Fake USC has a pro day tomorrow in Southern California. Make sure you check that out.
Yeah, it should be. There's a lot of stuff happening here where these guys are, showing themselves off. So it's going to be an exciting few weeks, and we're going to be here giving it to you. Follow us, always interact with us on Twitter. Follow the Hoof Podcast on all your favorite podcast networks. I'm going to be for the recorded pod this week on Friday. Anthony Prohaska and I are going to get together, so it's going to be the Anthony and Anthony show and talk some about the division and the acquisitions made a little more and the contract situations from those and where we think people are going to finish and how they'll do this year. And then also we'll speak a little bit on a new segment that I'm calling Garbage Bin or Bargain Bin and talk about the guys who are left in free agency and where they might end up and if they are a good get or would you leave them where they are as garbage. So tune in for that for sure.
That'll be out on Friday. Be sure to check that out. And as always, thanks for spending time with us. Go Bills.
Go Bills.